There's one thing that you'll notice about this piece straight away. I wouldn't blame you for thinking that this was some sort of aged vintage model. It certainly looks like that at first glance. Nevertheless, this watch is from a brand who specialises in exactly that. As their name suggests, Out of Order are an Italian company who produce watches with heavily distressed aesthetics, to the extent that their slogan is damaged in Italy. Now, the watches don't actually arrive faulty, not working, for instance. These watches are intended to have somewhat of an old age vintage look and feel, whilst containing new, fresh and fully functional components. There is a community out there who love these watches, and I can kind of see the appeal. Most of their popular watches are diver style watches, including the Casanova, which I'll be reviewing today. Size-wise, this watch comes in with a case diameter of 44mm, a depth of 11.8mm, and a lug-to-lug size of exactly 50. In terms of construction, the case is made of stainless steel, with mineral crystal glass covering the surface, and this combines for a 10 ATM water resistance. Powering this watch is a Miyota 2115 quartz movement. These watches are normally supplied either with a stainless steel bracelet or a vegetable tanned leather strap, and the current retail price on their website is £330 for one of these. But I actually received this watch around 18 months ago from a complimentary Watch Gang subscription for my other channel. The black tier that this fell under would normally cost you about £99, which I'll mention later. I want to start with one of the most unusual aspects of this watch, the strap. This watch came fitted with a brown vegetable tan leather strap. This one has a notably rough finish designed to fit the aesthetic of the watch. From the images online, this looks like suede, but in reality, it's definitely not as smooth to the touch and is far more coarse and uneven. While I can see the intention behind this decision, I don't like the execution. I think this looks a lot more ragged than other similarly styled straps that I've seen before. It looks so destroyed, I almost want to throw it in the bin. It kind of looks like it's had an accident with a blender. Considering the retail price of this watch, I also think the quality is lacking. It may be vegetable tan and from Italy, but I think it feels cheap and almost plastic-like, which is quite disappointing. Maybe this will appeal more to you, but not for me. As a result, I prefer wearing this watch on this simple NATO strap instead. I think it matches the colour palette of the watch better and doesn't look like it's rotting on wrist. As a result, if you're considering buying one of these, I'd definitely recommend going for one of these stainless steel bracelet options. You can always buy an alternative extra leather strap instead at some point. But one thing I really do like is the case. I think Out of Order have really nailed the distressed look of this component. The stainless steel has been galvanized to give the case an industrial multi-tone finish, which I think adds a lot to the character of the piece and looks a lot different to the typical high shine finish of most dive watches. Despite the worn look, the steel does feel good quality and very solid overall. The crown is screw down, grippy and easy to operate, and it's also got a couple of protective chunky crown guards. Unfortunately, the watch only has an advertised water resistance of 10 ATM, which is why I describe this Casanova as a diver style watch rather than a true diver. Overall, excluding the crown, this is quite a large case. It's exactly 44mm in diameter and almost 11mm in depth. This is definitely better sized to those of you with larger wrists, and it dwarfs mine, which are only 6¼ inches. The Casanova does only come in this single size, so if you're considering one of these, make sure you bear that in mind. It also features a medium-sized Made in Italy inscription on the left flank of the case. This isn't very deep and doesn't bother me too much, but I'd probably rather not have that there in the first place. Clearly, the design of the watch has taken some inspiration from the Rolex Submariner. While the latter certainly doesn't have the same level of distressing when bought new, there is still a clear resemblance. The 120-click bezel is similar in design to the Submariner. This one almost has a green hue to it, and I like the slight brushing of the edges. It definitely adds to that used feel of the watch. Though it clicks nicely when turning and has a good level of grip, it's a little loose for my taste. There is also a bit of noticeable back play with this one, which could affect its accuracy. But in reality, if you're buying a watch like this with this level of water resistance, chances are you're probably not going to be diving in it anyway, so this shouldn't be too much of a problem. The glass covering the dial is mineral crystal. When you consider the price that they're asking for one of these, I think that's disappointing. I've showcased watches on this channel before that are easily available for around £50 that have sapphire glass. While mineral glass isn't inherently bad and does have some advantages, I think it's clearly an area where they've cut costs. In most situations, for most people, I think sapphire is preferable and it should be doable at this retail price. Nevertheless, this one features a Cyclops which is aligned well with the date window beneath. I found this isn't particularly reflective, which aids visualization in bright light. As expected, the dial is really familiar in design. I think the applied logo and indices really help to give it some depth and interest. Those raised hour markers, by the way, are superluminova, resulting in bright performance in dark conditions. The hands are basically the same as what you get in many Rolex homages too, so overall, the dial design isn't exactly what I would call original. Nevertheless, I quite like the proportions and the chapter ring. I think it's quite tastefully done. It's just not particularly inventive. Powering the 000 Casanova is the Japanese Miyota 2115 quartz movement. Whilst this isn't necessarily a bad movement, it's a cheap one. You can buy these online individually easily for under £9. And it's said that you can get them for under £3 when bought en masse. This isn't a mechanical movement or even a mecha quartz, which is frustrating for me. There are a range of competing dive watches with more preferable movements available in this price range or even lower. And really, that last point is where my issues lie with this watch. I'm going to put aside my size preferences here and try to judge the rest of the watch objectively. At around £300, aside from the unusual distressed look, what is there really that would make me want to buy this watch over the competition? When you look at this piece in person, although it's got some decent weight to it, it doesn't look like a £300 watch. There are strong offerings from the likes of Seiko, Orient, Phoebus and Citizen, offering mechanical movements and better water resistance. Heck, even the sub £100 Invicta Pro Diver that I recently reviewed arguably offers better quality, more versatile sizing and a mechanical movement for a fraction of the cost. As a result, this 000 would be far down my list if I was in the market for a low-cost dive watch, at the retail price anyway. Overall though, if you can find a way to get one of these for under £100, I don't think you're getting a particularly bad deal, but as with many watch brands, the regular retail price is just extortionate. In my opinion, you'd be crazy to spend £300 on one of these.